This NFL Week 1 edition of the Propcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by the SGPN Free Roll Football Contest. Join our free season-long pick'em for a chance to win $3,000 and a Super Bowl autographed SGP helmet. Sign up at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/contest. We're also brought to you by Game Time. Snag the tickets without the stress. Use promo code SGPN on your first purchase to save $20. Download the Game Time app and use promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Play the Underdog Pick'em in college or NFL and win up to 20 times in one game. Use promo code SGPN at Underdog Fantasy for a 100% deposit bonus of up to $100. And we're also brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the app now and use promo code SGP. New customers can score $200 in bonus bets instantly when they bet just $5 on any NFL game, only on DraftKings with promo code SGP. And finally, we're brought to you by Hall of Fame Bets, the sports betting research platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit hofbets.com and use promo code SGPN to get 50% off of your first month and start making smarter bets today. Welcome, everyone, to the Propcast, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It is Friday, September the 8th, currently 11:05 on the East Coast. Here to, lick our wounds a little bit after the catastrophe that went down for us on Thursday Night Football. But I think the good news is we got to look at the positive of that. It's the first game of the regular season, so we're definitely going to address the elephant in the room here. But hey, NFL Week 1, at least for the Sunday games, are officially here to give out our player props. And joining me here to help me break it down, you guys know him as a motorsports king on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network and does so much work outside of just the SGPN network. It's my main man, Rod Villagomez. Rod, how's it going, my man, this morning?
I almost considered retirement after last night. I literally could not believe just how that whole game played out. It was amazing in that Travis Kelce. I was texting my brother, said that guy needs $1 billion contract. You just saw what that offense looks like without Travis Kelce. And let me tell you, I don't know who's out there in free agency right now, or not free agency, but I don't care who's out there. If I were the Chiefs, the first thing I do, like seconds after that game, was call every available wide receiver and say, can you please? I mean, I would probably call Antonio Brown and say, please come help us.
Yeah, I think the first thing that I think that the Chiefs wide receiving group got exposed last night. We see, like you mentioned, Travis Kelce puts, I guess, a Band-Aid over how bad that wide receiving room is for the Kansas City Chiefs. And I'm not saying that it might be an overreaction by us, but I mean, it was bad last night for the Kansas City Chiefs. And again, give credit to the Detroit Lions. They were able to take advantage and to do just enough to get the victory in Week 1 on Thursday Night Football for the first game of the regular season. 21-20. I know a lot of
points, Munaf. All it takes is 1 point.
It does. It really does. And again, it's an outstanding start for the Detroit Lions, who I think had a win total coming into the season of 9.5. And were the odds-on favorite to win the NFC North. So it's a huge victory for them to be the defending Super Bowl champions. But not a lot of the blame has been going to Kadarius Toney after the tweets were just flying last night about, was this the single worst performance by a wide receiver in the history of the NFL? And Rod, I got to tell you, man, it's probably up there for how bad it was for Kadarius Toney last night, because there was, I think Warren Sharp put this out, there was a freeze frame picture that he put out that Kadarius Toney literally has the ball in his hands, and the tweet said this turned into 6 points for the Detroit Lions. And I mean, it was just that type of night. I mean, there's an opportunity also at the end of the game where the Chiefs were driving, where Sky Moore, I believe, had an opportunity to reel in a pass on fourth and, I think it was a 4th and 25. Couldn't get it done, but you're right. I think this just kind of shows how good Travis Kelce is for this Chiefs offense and how much he carries the offensive load for this team.
You want to know what Kadarius Toney, his final line was? He had 1 catch for -1 yards. That is how bad that game was for him. And listen, I'm not gonna say. Oh, I'm sorry. That was his rushing total. Which, I mean, look, it could have been that bad.
I think it was like 1 catch,
It was
1 yard.
one catch, 1 yard.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. Take away the negative on that one. I was reading the wrong line, but it was still the same result. I don't know. I mean, honestly, when you have a game that bad, when you make that first drop on the first night, I'm sure stuff plays in your head. So I'm not gonna bury Kadarius Toney
No.
after this one performance, but I will say, boy, I tell you, I will be hitting that. What's that machine that spits balls at your? I'll hit that all day long. I have everybody just spitting balls.
Yeah, I think the first thing that's happening in practice for the Kansas City Chiefs is going to be that the little machine that's, that they put the football in, and the guys go up there and try to make the catches. But yeah, I guess we also got to address the elephant in the room. Not a great night for us as far as our player props win. We're not going to sugarcoat it here. I know I went 0-3 last night. Rod, I think you went 0-3 as well. I'll have to check on Chris's picks. Chris wasn't able to join us today. He had a personal matter to attend to, so he should be back with us next week. But look, there's only one direction for us to go, and that is going to be up, and that is going to be with our NFL Week 1 player prop picks. So we're putting on our clown hats this morning here, Rod, and we're looking at our chops, but hey, we're still here to give out some more picks. Whether you want to fade us or follow us, we'll leave that up to you.
Hey, listen, the thing about it is that it's not as if we come in here and say, oh, well, we think. I mean, we come in with solid research, and
Sure.
The game flow should have been the way it was. It wasn't as if Pacheco didn't get any single carries for me, or McKinnon. The fact that he only got 1 catch in a game where Travis Kelce was out. I mean, if we play this game again, that doesn't happen again. I'm telling you, it was a fluke. This whole game was a fluke. I'm putting it behind us.
Yeah, I mean, look, I was excited that I saw that the Lions got the first touchdown of the game. It was a passing touchdown from Jared Goff to Amon-Ra St. Brown. I was like, all right, I'm feeling good. I just need one more passing touchdown, and it just didn't come into fruition. And like you mentioned, Isaiah Pacheco didn't. He got the carries, but Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I think, got the bulk of the carries last night for the Kansas City Chiefs. I think Patrick Mahomes ended up as the leading rusher for the Kansas City Chiefs. So that just kind of tells you how the offense was looking last night for the Kansas City Chiefs. All right, Rod, let's forget about it. Short memory. It's like quarterbacks throwing interceptions. Short memory, forget about it. Let's move on to NFL Week 1 for the Sunday games, at least. Before we dive into that, let me tell everyone about the free roll football contest for the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Have you signed up yet for our free season long NFL Pick'em contest? It's $1,000 for the first place and $500 for second place. And if you're a Patreon member, the NFL season, your prize doubles from $1,000 to $2,000 for first place, and from $500 to $1,000 for second place. Plus, if you're a Patreon member, wins the free roll football contest, you're going to get an autographed full-size Sports Gambling Podcast helmet, which includes guests like Joe Theismann, Bill Romanowski, Pac-Man Jones, John Sally, Eric Metcalf, and LeGarrette Blunt. Sign-up link is at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/contest, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Patreon to get in for your chance to win double your prize and win the weekly Patreon Pick'em contest. And it's officially here. We've been hyping it up. 7 months without football. We were able to digest an NFL game on Thursday night, but officially NFL Week 1 Sunday is just 2 days away, and the wait is officially over, and NFL is here. And DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, is giving you a can't-miss offer for Week 1. This week, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5 on any NFL game. DraftKings is hooking everyone up with game day greatness. All customers can take advantage of 2 new offers every single game day this September. Check the app to see what you can get. Download the app now and use promo code SGP to sign up. New customers can take home $200 in bonus bets instantly just for betting $5. That's code SGP. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details and state-specific responsible gambling resources. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. And we're also brought to you by Game Time app. Look, you want to get out there for NFL Week 1, or you still want to catch a game at the ballpark for baseball season, or if you want to check out a comedy show or theater in your area, let Game Time take care of you. They make it stress free when you're trying to find tickets. And again, they have game tickets and any type of tickets up to the day of the event, so you don't have to worry about planning out months in advance. The thing I love about their app is they have great flash deals and last minute tickets. But the best part is that when you go and buy a ticket, you can see the exact image of your seat that you're going to get at that venue. The lowest price is guaranteed, event cancellation protection, job loss protection as well. Like I mentioned, forget planning in months in advance. Game Time has deals tickets on events right up to the day of. Get images of your seat, like I mentioned. Buy tickets in a matter of seconds. 2 taps, and you're pretty much done. Tickets are sent directly to your phone, so you never have to dig through your email. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code SGPN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Create an account, redeem code SGPN for $20 off. Download the Game Time app. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, Rod, let's get into our player props here for NFL Week 1. We're going to give 4 player props, and then our 5th one will be our best bet at the end of the episode, and then we'll throw out some touchdown props that we do like as well for NFL Week 1. So, Rod, lead us off, my man.
All right, I'm going to start with my favorite team. If you didn't already know what that team is, if you're watching YouTube, I am wearing a Jeff Garcia jersey, by the way. This is not a Trey Lance. I'll show you.
There we go. Oh, yeah, Jeff Garcia. Yes, sir.
Garcia. So I'm going to start with the current quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers, Brock Purdy. His passing touchdown total is set at 1.5. You're getting plus money if you take the over on this. I will take the over on this. Brock Purdy is back, ladies and gentlemen. Brock Purdy is playing the Steelers. Their defense is okay. It's not the greatest, but I still believe that Brock Purdy can get at least 2 passing touchdowns. Why, you ask? Well, he had 2 passing touchdowns in every game over the last 6 games of his season last season. He started out with 2 against Miami, 2 against Tampa, 2 against Seattle, 2 against Washington, 2 against the Raiders, 3 against Arizona, and then 3 in the playoff game against Seattle. So Brock Purdy, I mean, for as much as the Niners love to run, is still at least able to get 2 touchdowns in a game. He's got Debo, he's got Ayuk, he's got Samuel, he's got, all these, he's got McCaffrey even that can catch touchdown passes. The dude's got so many weapons at his disposal. I just can't see a scenario in which he doesn't at least get 2 touchdowns in this game. Looking back at like what I said, as far as what the Steelers did last season. And this is the tough thing about Week 1, right? I mean, we always say this is what they did last season, but obviously they've made changes. They've made upgrades. They've sometimes made downgrades. So you never really truly know, but all we can kind of hang our hat on is that quarterbacks have done this against them last season. Joe Burrow threw for 2. Jacoby Brissett even threw for 2. Josh Allen threw for 4. Hurts threw for 4. Burrow again threw for 4 the next time around. Deshaun Watson even got 2 on them last season. So this is something that the Steelers are able to give up. This is something Brock Purdy has done every single time he stepped on the field. So I can't see that trend changing. And I think opening week, they're going to need for Brock Purdy to show that he is back 100% and that they're going to give him the opportunity to just prove that and prove that to the fans and prove that to the coaching staff. So give me 2 touchdowns at least for Brock Purdy on the day, plus 120 over on DraftKings.
Yeah, I think the in this game, I don't think the Niners will have a lot of success running the football. So I think it's going to have to be on the shoulders of Brock Purdy for them to score points. You talk about Christian McCaffrey, you talk about Debo Samuel. I'm not sure if George Kittle will be out there for the San Francisco 49ers offense, but I think that number one, like I mentioned, the running game will, I don't want to say will be non-existent, but I think we'll have a tough time on the ground. And if we get down to red zone situations, I think Brock Purdy's going to have to make a play with his arm. And number 2, I think that when we talk about the 49ers offense and quarterbacks, Kyle Shanahan puts these quarterbacks in the right positions, right? We saw Jimmy Garoppolo when he was there for so many years with his 49ers team that it seemed like, I don't want to say scripted is not the right word, but he just put him in the right situations. I think Brock Purdy, like you mentioned, when he came in to be the starting quarterback for this 49ers team, when he came in after Jimmy Garoppolo got injured, like you mentioned, he did it in almost every single game. So I think that the playbook opened up a little more. We talked about that when we did the NFC West preview. But I think that, I think this, especially at plus money, you got to take it. And again, you're the Niners fan, so and as you've watched the games, you know what's going on with the 49ers. So over 1.5 for Brock Purdy at plus odds. All right, for my first player prop, Rod, I'm going to stick in the same division of the AFC North. I'm going to take Joe Burrow to throw an interception here. It's at plus 120 currently over on DraftKings. So obviously, Joe Burrow did not have a lot of practice or played in any of the preseason games for the Cincinnati Bengals, dealing with a calf injury, right? And you kind of take a look at his game log against this Cleveland Browns defense, and he's played them, I believe, 6 times in his career, and he's thrown an interception in at least 5 of those 6 games against the Cleveland Browns. And when we talk about the Cleveland Browns, he's played in 5 career games, and he's thrown at least 4 interceptions in 4 out of those 5 games, including 4 straight games. He did it last season. He threw 1 each in those matchups, going back to the 2020-21 season. 2 interceptions, and then back all the way on October 25th of 2020, he had 1 interception. So also what stuck out to me is the number of sacks that he's taken from this Cleveland Browns defense. I mean, 3, 4, 5, 5. He only had 1 sack in that last game in December of 2022. But look, I know he just signed a huge contract to be the franchise quarterback for the foreseeable future for the Cincinnati Bengals. But I do have some concerns that there may be some rust here with Joe Burrow against the Cleveland Browns. And when we talk about the Cleveland Browns, this secondary and their front 7 come in right top 10 in positional rankings for this upcoming season. So I think that, again, the rust may be there. I think that he'll make some mistakes here against the Cleveland Browns like he has been. And I'm not saying that the Browns have figured him out, but I think that, when we talk about, again, last night is a great example that a tip pass can fall in to the hands of a defender on the Cleveland Browns. So I think at plus 120, I'm going to take Joe Burrow to throw at least 1 interception in this game here, Rod.
And I don't know what it is about the Browns, but the Bengals and the Browns always play games that are a little more intense. I mean, maybe it's the interstate rivalry, maybe it's whatever, but it just seems like those games are always a little more intense. So a little more defense, sometimes a little more interceptions thrown. So I like that as well. I mean, look, it is game 1. We have seen already some crazy stuff happen. So Joe Burrow throwing an interception is not necessarily that crazy of something to happen.
All right, Rod, take us to player prop number 2.
All right, I'm going to stay in the AFC West now as we're talking. I'm going to talk about Justin Herbert. His passing attempt is set at 35.5. What's crazy, Munaf, this is a high number already, but I'm going to take the over on this one. Justin Herbert has thrown for the over last season 10 games. That's way more than half, obviously. This guy throws a lot, and it's crazy to think because you've got Austin Eckler back there who can run the ball, but they just tend to throw the ball a ton. He started out the season with 34 pass attempts, which is kind of close to this against the Raiders, but then opened it up 48 against Kansas City, 45 against Jacksonville, 39 against Houston, 57 against Denver, 51 against Seattle. And then against the team that he's playing right now, the Dolphins, he actually had 51 pass attempts in the second time he played him. So he's been throwing this ball a lot against everybody and against Miami as well. Miami 7 times last season had some semblance of quarterbacks. Now, I will say that San Francisco had Jimmy Garoppolo, and that's where he went down and Brock Purdy stepped in. But before that, Jimmy Garoppolo had thrown 4 passes. Brock Purdy threw 37. I think it's safe to think that if Brock Purdy was in there for one more snap or a couple, he would have probably thrown a 38. Or if Jimmy was in there, he probably would have thrown at least 38 as well. So I guess we can kind of count that as one in my favor. But again, Justin Herbert alone, I'm not even really worried about what Miami does. Justin Herbert will throw this ball a lot, and 38 attempts for him, it feels like he'll get that in the first 3 quarters of a game. So, like I said, it seems like a high number, but when you look at what he's done, especially last season, it's just not. That's actually a low game for him in most cases.
I mean, you should also going back to take a look at the total in this game. It's at around what 51 points for this game between the Dolphins and the Chargers. So, excuse me. Um, the books are expecting points to be scored in this game. And again, if it does even go under this number, let's say it's about 47, 48 points, that's still a lot of points that is being scored. But you can go back and look at the career numbers for Justin Herbert in his career. He's averaging 40.1 attempts per game. Going back to last season, he averaged 41.1 attempts per game. So, and also adds to the fact, last point I'll make on this, and I really do like this. Kellen Moore is a new offensive coordinator for this Los Angeles Chargers team, formerly with the Dallas Cowboys. And we know that when he was with the Cowboys, they'd like to air it out a little bit with Dak Prescott and the receivers that he did have there. And again, it's the same story here for the Los Angeles Chargers. You have Keenan Allen, you have Mike Williams, you have Quentin Johnson that you got in the draft. So, I think that I think this may turn into a shootout. But again, when you talk about Justin Herbert, I think it's going to be on the shoulders for him to if they want to win this game. But I think points were definitely going to be had in this game for sure. Shout out to Nick joining us in the chat there. Nick, yeah, man, it was yeah, we're recovering it, but like we mentioned, it's one game of the NFL season, the first game, but we get to wipe the slate clean, and then we forget about it, goldfish memory, and focus on week one on the Sunday game. So hopefully we can find some more winners here. So that's player prop number 2 for my man Rod. Before I get over to my second player prop of the Sunday schedule, let me tell you about the newest sponsor on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. That's Hall of Fame Bets. Win bigger by betting smarter this NFL season with Hall of Fame Bets, the sports betting analytics platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Research every NFL, NBA, MLB, and soccer bet with historical stats and data. Enter any parlay idea into Hall of Fame Bets, revolutionary parlay optimizer tool to get hit rates broken down by leg as well as an expected probability for the entire parlay. Sort all players' hit rate for any bet to learn which players are hot and which picks have value. Stop betting in the dark and join over 30,000 users researching with Hall of Fame Bets to craft more intelligent, data-driven parlays. Download the Hall of Fame Bet app or visit hofbets.com and use promo code SGPN to get 50% off for your first month. Start researching, start winning with Hall of Fame Bets. And roster brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy has a way to play alongside your favorite football team all season long with their fantasy pick'em game. Your pick between 2 to 5 players, so like where they'll go higher or lower on one of their stats. Then do what you usually spend your Sundays doing, watching the games. You can win up to 20 times your money in a single game by going 5 for 5. It's a fantasy game, but you can win real money. So watch along, make your picks, and make a little cash over on Underdog's mobile app or website, underdogfantasy.com. When you sign up with promo code SGPN, Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. Again, that's Underdog Fantasy, promo code SGPN. And hang tight. At the end of the episode, we'll put together a little parlay for you guys for the Sunday games with our player props. All right, Rod, let's me get over to my next player prop. I am going to stay in that same division again, the AFC North. I'm going to go over to the Steelers and the Niners game that we talked about. I should have just gone into my first player prop with that as well, but I'll go back to that. I'm going to go with George Pickens over 41.5 receiving yards in this game against the 49ers. And I liked, number one, what I've seen from George Pickens in training camp and practice during this offseason. And we've seen all the hoorah of how many spectacular and amazing catches that George Pickens can make. But I feel like this is going to be a year where he's going to take that next leap in his career, making that second year leap for this offense of the of Pittsburgh Steelers. Kenny Pickett last season came in and took over for the starting quarterback job. I think after it was week 4 or 5. But I think what really stood out to me about George Pickens and also Kenny Pickett is that in that second half of the year, whether it's like the final 7, 8, 9 games, they were looking to find their stride for this offense. And again, I know Kenny Pickett has some early, turnover issues, but the final, I think, 8 games of the season, he threw one interception that span. You go back and look at George Pickens last season, 52 receptions, 801 yards. He had 42 or more receiving yards in 4 of the last 5 games of the regular season for this Pittsburgh Steelers offense. I'm not completely sold on the secondary of the San Francisco 49ers. I know their front seven is absolutely amazing, led by Nick Bosa. But I still have some questions about their secondary. We saw Patrick Mahomes go in there last season and absolutely torch this team up. I'm not saying Kenny Pickett obviously is Patrick Mahomes, but also what I really did like about this Pittsburgh Steelers team is in the preseason when the stars were out there, 5 drives resulted in 5 touchdowns. I mean, they're going to be able to move the football. And I'm not asking for an astronomical number here from George Pickens. 42 yards, he can do it. And like I mentioned, he proved it time and time again last season, where in 17 games last year, he averaged 47.1 yards per game receiving for this team. I think the targets are going to definitely be up this season. I wouldn't be surprised if he's in triple-digit targets at the end of the season. We'll revisit that. But I think that from what I've seen in the offseason and training camps and in practice and in the preseason, I think George Pickens is going to be that guy for this offense for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I'm going to go with George Pickens over 41 and a half receiving yards in game 1 against the San Francisco 49ers here, Rod.
For as talented as that secondary is, they are the most frustrating unit on that team because they can lock somebody down for like 3/4 of the game and then just give stuff up. It seems like you got to hold your breath when somebody drops back to pass against them because it's like, is this going to be a knockdown or is this going to be a big play? So, there's a lot of secondaries where you look and you go, oh man, what's good? Go ahead, drop back. I don't care. Our secondary's got this. Not the Niners, not so much them. It's a crapshoot. You never know what you're going to get.
All right, Rod, take us over to player prop number 3, my friend. What do we got?
All right, let's go to the AFC West, and I'm going to go with my bud, Josh Jacobs. His rushing total is set at 70.5. Munaf, I'm taking the over again. I don't know what it is. Maybe the optimism. Maybe it's just me looking for good value there, but the over on his rushing total at 70.5, minus 115 over on DraftKings. Let me just handicap it by saying this. In only one game in his career against the Broncos has Josh Jacobs failed to hit this number. That's it. That's my handicap. In the games against the Broncos that he's played, he's had 109 rushing yards, 144, 129, 89, 112, 85. The only time that he hasn't gone over this mark, 53 yards against them in 2021 back in October. So he has the guy can do this time and time again. He had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times last season where he went over this total as well. So look, Josh Jacobs is going to get fed. Jimmy Garoppolo loves him handing the ball off to quarterbacks. To running backs rather. That's his bread and butter right there. So I just, like I said, with Jimmy Garoppolo there, we know that running backs like to thrive because that's just the way it is for him. He doesn't throw very far anymore. He kind of lives in the middle. So these running backs get an opportunity for a few more carries because of that. And Josh Jacobs is just a talented running back in and of his own right. So, and he owns the Broncos. So he's got a fine matchup to start his season. I think he's going to go way over this 70.5 total.
Yeah, I think that number one that you mentioned is that I think the attempts are going to be there as well, right? Turn around and hand the ball off to Josh Jacobs. And we saw what he was able to do last season, not only season long, but also against the Broncos, like you mentioned, right? Last season, 28 carries, 144 yards, 5.1 yards per carry. The second division game, 24 carries, 109 yards, 4.5 yards per carry. And it's not like he was the only one to do it. Travis Etienne last year against the Broncos defense, 24 carries, 156 yards, 6.5 yards per carry. Cam Akers, 23 carries, 118 yards, 5.1 yards per carry. Dante Foreman of the Carolina Panthers, 24 carries, 113 yards, 4.7 yards per carry. Breece Hall, in 4 short carries, had 72 yards against this Broncos rush defense. And again, when we talk about strengths of this Broncos team, it's the secondary, right? We talk about guys like Patrick Surtain. They got rid of a lot of their front 7 guys. They traded away Bradley Chubb. Von Miller is no longer there as well. So that strength that was the defense as a unit was the front seven and the secondary, but now it just seems like it's just that the secondary for this Denver Broncos team. So, and again, I think for Josh McDaniels and this offense, that I'm not saying that I don't think anybody wants to keep Russell Wilson off the field anymore after what transpired last season for this team. But I think that number one, yeah, you want to turn around and hand the ball off to Josh Jacobs, who again, number one, like you mentioned, had an incredible season last year and career long. He's been great against the Denver Broncos. But also, I think that that offensive line should have some success against not a strong unit of that front seven anymore in the Denver Broncos. So yeah, I can get behind this as well. I have the same player prop in this game here as well. It's on the Raiders side as well. It's chalky, but I had to rub my eyes a little bit when I saw this number here, Rod. Davante Adams receiving yards prop is only at 69.5 for this game against the Denver Broncos. And now I just preached on how good the secondary is for the Denver Broncos, Rod. But when we talk about Davante Adams, it's very, very difficult to slow this man down. Now that number's up to 72.5. I still like it at that number. And I also did like his receptions as well. That number, I believe I saw it at 5.5 last night. Let me get the updated number here for this game. It's still at 5.5, but it's at minus 190, but you're probably going to find a 6.5. So let me start with this here, Rod. Last season, Davante Adams' first season with the Raiders, and he played the Broncos twice, just like Josh Jacobs did. In those two games last season, he combined for 16 receptions, 9 receptions one game, 7 receptions in the second game, 13 targets in each of those games. The first game, he had 101 receiving yards, and the second game, 141 receiving yards in those two games. Now, I know it's Jimmy Garoppolo now. That's the quarterback for this team, but when you have a top 3 wide receiver in my eyes in Davante Adams, a lot of people can make the case one of the best at number 1, you can say, for Davante Adams, just because what he's been able to accomplish in his career. I thought this number was a little conservative at 72.5. I mean, I'm not asking him to get into triple digits. He's more than capable of doing it. But I think this also just comes down for me. Number one is that the targets are going to be there for Davante Adams, as they have been all season long, and all career long for him. And I think Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be able to find him. And I think that Davante Adams not only is a guy that can, catch the ball and get you some yak, but he's also a downfield threat as well. He has some of the best hands in the entire National Football League at 72.5. Definitely shop around. There may be some conflicting numbers on there. Get the best number. Currently over on DraftKings, I see at 72.5 here, Rod.
Yeah, and it's Davante Adams. I mean, it's like putting a Ferrari in and saying that it's going to get the same gas mileage as, I don't know, whatever a bad gas mileage car is. Bad in analogies this morning. I think I need another sip of coffee. But yeah, again, I don't understand why that number is so low. Maybe they are factoring in that Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't necessarily throw deep anymore. But when you got a guy like Davante Adams, it doesn't even need to be a deep pass. Like, I mean, you saw what he was able to do with Deebo Samuel. I mean, Deebo was Deebo because of Jimmy Garoppolo. So if he could do that with Deebo, he can already do that with a guy like Davante Adams. So I like that as well. Maybe the books are trying to be a little too conservative in the beginning of the season.
All right, player prop number 4, Rod. Let's go.
Yes. Why am I on the overs, Munaf? Talk me off of these overs. Maybe it's because they're, like I said, the books are getting a little too tight to the vest. Darren Waller. Let's go to Sunday night's game. Darren Waller. Over 4.5 receptions on the game. This is at minus 105. You're not paying barely any juice. In an injury-shortened season last year, there was only one game still that he was unable to get to at least 5 receptions, and that was the game against the Patriots, where he only caught 3 passes. I'm sorry. I'm looking at his targets. Still though, he was able to get to 5 catches at least in Arizona against Arizona. And look, Darren Waller is Darren Waller. Right? He's going to get some play now in New York. It's going to be just a offense that he's going to be able to thrive in because he is already a receiver. He's a tight end that masquerades as a receiver. And we know that the Giants need a pass catcher. We talked about it in the preseason, where this is probably going to be an offense where he becomes a wide receiver 1, essentially. So we'll definitely take that. But really what I'm looking at too is I kind of took a sneak look at Evan Ingram, right? What he was able to accomplish against the Cowboys when he played them. Well, he did very well against the Cowboys. He had 8 receptions in his last game against them. He had 6 receptions, 11 receptions, 5 receptions, 7 receptions. So Evan Ingram has gotten some play against the Cowboys. And if we think that that's going to be a little bit of what we see, you know, as far as Darren Waller and Evan Ingram in that same offense, then I think, you know, Evan Ingram has had some success against the Cowboys. I think Darren Waller can at least catch 5 passes in this game on Sunday night because they need him. They really, really need him. That's really all there is to it.
If you go back to the prior, let's go back to 2019, 2020, before the injuries occurred for Darren Waller. He was in the conversation of being the one of the best tight ends in the league. I mean, when we talked about tight ends at that time, it was George Kittle, it was Travis Kelce, Darren Waller's name was in that conversation as well. Mark Andrews. I mean, those were the top guys, especially for fantasy purposes as well. I mean, go back and look at his numbers in those prior 2 seasons before he had those injuries. He was 1,000-yard receiver or tight end, I should say, for the Raiders offense. I mean, I'm trying to put up the numbers here right now for Darren Waller, but let's see here. Yeah, so going back to 2019 season, the last season in Oakland before they moved to Vegas, 1,145 receiving yards. 2020, 1,196 receiving yards. I know the last 2 seasons, like I mentioned, he's only played a combined 20 games, but when he's on the field and he's healthy, he's one of the best tight ends in the league, or, you know, right up there with the Kelce's and the Kittles of the world. So, and again, we saw it again. We talk about the preseason. We talk about the reports we see from the beat writers and such about how Darren Waller has fit in very nicely for this New York Giants offense. I think that's going to be pay a lot of dividends and be a lot of help for a quarterback like Daniel Jones. And I gave this out when I was on with the mothership yesterday as far as a player prop for the Sunday night football game. So I definitely go stabbing this here with you as well. All right, for my next player prop, I came up with a 2-player prop parlay here, and I'm trying to get over to the exact number. So, you know, when we talk about week 1, Rod, you know, there's going to be mistakes that are going to be had. I mean, and I'm going with 2 quarterbacks here to throw interceptions. Number 1, that's going to be Baker Mayfield of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'll start with that. Right now, for him to throw 1 interception is at -130. I mean, I don't know if I need to expand more on Baker Mayfield throwing an interception, but I think that in a game against the Minnesota Vikings, where we saw last year with the Vikings, it was high-scoring games. You know, they like to get up and down the field. They like to score points. And I think that if the Buccaneers are going to be trailing in this game at any point, he's going to have to throw the football, right? And I think that we've seen Baker Mayfield throughout his career. He's prone to making those mistakes. So right now at -130 to him to throw 1 interception as first part of my parlay, I will throw that out as well. And the second guy I'm going to throw out there to throw an interception, I was struggling between 2 guys. It was either going to be Matthew Stafford or it was going to be Bryce Young of the Carolina Panthers. I'm going to go with Matthew Stafford at -140. So this 2-team parlay comes out to around +200 for both these guys to throw an interception. Now, we know for Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp is going to miss at minimum the first week of the regular season because of the setback that he had with the hamstring injury. There's a possibility that he goes up on the IR. Now that takes away your favorite weapon of the offense for Matthew Stafford, right? I mean, we know what Cooper Kupp can do, so you're left with guys like Van Jefferson, Cam Akers, Tyler Higbee, and those sorts of guys, right? And I'm not saying to knock on any of those guys, but we're talking about Cooper Kupp here. When you take him away from the offense, it's significantly going to fall off. But going back to last season, the 10 games that he did play in, he threw interceptions, a total of 8 interceptions last season in 10 games. He's played the Seahawks, I want to say once when he joined the Rams as a quarterback, and he's throwing an interception in both of the games that he's played against the Seahawks once he became the quarterback of the Rams. So This is going back to the 2021 season, Rod. He had one interception in the October 7th game and then the December 21st game against the Seattle Seahawks. Didn't face him last season because of the injuries. Both those games ended up going, I think played in December, where Matthew Stafford was already done for the year. But I mean, if we want to go talk about career long, even when he was his days with the Detroit Lions, he's faced this Seahawks team 6 times in his career. He's thrown an interception in 5 out of those 6 games against the Seattle Seahawks. And I know we talked about how the Seahawks are trying to create that Legion of Boom again. They drafted Devin Witherspoon at that cornerback position. I know Jamal Adams is going to be missing this game, but Matthew Stafford is prone to making those mistakes. And again, he's done it in 5 out of the 6 games in his career, including both of the games he's faced the Seahawks as a quarterback for the Los Angeles Rams. Baker Mayfield throw interception, Matthew Stafford throw interception. You want to play them separately? I'm fine with that, but I'm going to put them together. Give me a nice plus 203 price currently over on DraftKings here, Rod.
Didn't we make quite a bit of money last season off of Matthew Stafford interceptions?
I believe we did.
I feel like that was one of the staples of every week. We were like, oh yeah, and Matthew Stafford interception. Go ahead and take that one as well. So
yeah.
And you don't have to sell me on Baker Mayfield interception. I don't know how much long that guy's going to last at all. Yeah. So I'd put both of those together. I think you're absolutely correct. I love both of those. And the fact that you're getting 2-1 on that, that's even better.
All right, so that is 4 player props each from Rod and I. Let's do our touchdown props here, Rod. Before we get into our best bets to wrap up the show, what do you got for your touchdown props?
All right, this one comes in with almost 0 actual stats behind it, but this is going to be a fun little storyline if this hits. Ezekiel Elliott, anytime first half touchdown. This is at 5-1. Can you see it, Munaf? Can you see? This is the most Bill Belichick thing you can possibly do is to let Ezekiel Elliott run a goal line, in his first game as a running back. We already know that Bill Belichick is frustrating when you're trying to handicap any running back for New England, right? Well, now you put Ezekiel Elliott in the mix. I know everybody loves them some Ramondre Stevenson, but you got to think that he's going to get some run. They didn't just sign Ezekiel Elliott to sit on the bench. And how fitting is it that you're going to give him a couple of hopefully goal line looks against his former rival in the Eagles, right? I mean, that's even more insult. That's a Belichick thing to do, is toss this guy out against his rival in around the goal line and give him a chance to punch it in. So if that situation presents itself early, I like 5-1 for Ezekiel. And this isn't even first touchdown. This is just anytime in the first 30 minutes, so he's got all 30 minutes, first 2 quarters to score a touchdown for you. So I mean, it's Ezekiel Elliott. He doesn't do it all that often. It's anymore. Like, it just seems like he's a plotter, but yeah, I like him for an anytime in the first half touchdown at 5-1.
Yeah. I think when you get down to goal-to-goal situations, I think Ezekiel Elliott is probably going to be that guy for the New England Patriots offense. And again, like you mentioned, familiarity with the Eagles, with all his time that he was with the Dallas Cowboys to start his career. But I think that there's going to be ways where this offense and Bill Belichick figures out how to get Ezekiel Elliott involved. More than likely, will be obviously in the red zone as well, because he's that big body that can muscle in it and get that 1-2 extra yards that he needs and punch it into the end zone. So at a 5-1 price, I can't argue against it for that to occur. All right, for my touchdown prop, I am going to go with Anthony Richardson of the Indianapolis Colts. Anytime touchdown. That number is currently at plus 135. I think I saw the number. I'm trying to here it is. Yeah, Anthony Richardson plus 130 for him to be the anytime touchdown scorer in the game. And again, talk about Anthony Richardson. It's another quarterback that can utilize his legs, right? When we talk about the Jalen Hurts of the world, we talk about the Justin Fields of the world, Lamar Jacksons of the world. Anthony Richardson, we saw what he's able to do with his legs, especially in Florida in his college career. So where the questions are still there about his arm, but I think that he'll be able to utilize his legs. And I think they're going to need it, especially for a Colts offense that does not have Jonathan Taylor right now. So When it comes down to it, I think that Anthony Richardson, whether it's a quarterback sneak or whether it's a quarterback draw play, when they're in the red zone area, I think that he can definitely punch it in, or he has the possibility of breaking one out and taking it to the house because he has that type of athleticism. So Anthony Richardson plus 130 for my touchdown prop here anytime. I'll give you one more here. I was looking at the game between the Titans and the Saints. Chris Olave, anytime touchdown, plus 180. I think that number one, we talked about it for this offense of the New Orleans Saints, that I know Michael Thomas is back for this team, but I think Chris Olave is going to be that number one target for this team all season long. He'll have the target shares, and we're not sure how long Michael Thomas will be able to stay healthy. I know he's back and ready to go, but at least for this game, I think Chris Olave first touchdown score is 9-1. Anytime touchdown at plus 180. I really do like that. Again, Derek Carr, they'll be able to utilize his arm like he has done all throughout his career with the Raiders. I mean, we talked about some of the wide receivers that he's worked with more recently, Davante Adams, talk about the Hunter Renfrows of the world. So he's had the weapons, and I think that he has even better weapons here with the Saints and Chris Olave. So at plus 180, I really do like him to find the end zone here, Rod.
Yeah, and if you broke up a unit and put it on even the first team touchdown for Chris Olave, that's 5-1 as well. So if you think that he may not score the first touchdown in the game, but you think he's going to score the first touchdown for the Saints, I like putting it a little bit at 5-1 for that as well on DraftKings. So yeah, I mean, we know that the Derek Carr works well with wide receiver ones. Michael Thomas is still the wide receiver one by proxy, but I think you're right. I think this season we're going to see a changing of the guard. We're going to see the younger generation kind of sneak in there, and that's Olave. And with Derek Carr, he loves him some young receivers. So I'll take that as well.
All right, Rod, let's wrap up this show with our best bets for NFL Week 1 for the Sunday schedule. What do you have, my friend?
Well, we're doing best bets, right?
Yeah, best bets, yeah.
Oh, sorry. Man, I need more of this. I'm going to Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs over 70.5 rushing yards, minus 115. I know it's not the sexiest of bets, but it's going to cash. And he's done it so many times against the Broncos. It's not even funny. And the fact that Jimmy Garoppolo's there now too, we just said it even makes it better for him. So I think 100-yard game is in the cards for Josh Jacobs, which, if by my math, is well over 70.5.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, look, we talked about it, that he's done it throughout his career against the Denver Broncos. Again, if you want to not really, I guess, protect Jimmy Garoppolo, or if you want to slow the game down a little bit, which I think this probably would be a low-scoring game, you want to hand the ball off to Josh Jacobs. Again, we're not asking him to get 100 rushing yards here at 71, and he's done that multiple times in his career against the Denver Broncos, and we saw what he was able to do last season, where he led the league in rush yards for the Las Vegas Raiders. For my best bet, I am going to go. I talked about the Colts and the Jaguars game, and this one's an additional one that I had wrote down and I added to my card for this NFL Week 1. Travis Etienne over 14.5 receiving yards for the game against the Colts. We go back to last season and look at what he was able to do from a receiving yard perspective. In the AFC divisional round against the Jacksonville Jaguars, he had 18 receiving yards on 3 targets. Only had one against the Chargers, but he did break it out for 12 yards. But if we go back to the regular season, the final 4 games of the regular season, 3 targets in 3 out of the 4 games, and at least 2 targets in all 4 games, but he was able to get over this number. 24 receiving yards against the Cowboys, 29 against the Jets, 32 against the Texans, and 17 against the Tennessee Titans. And we kind of talk about going back the offseason conversation, right, with running backs and how the market has flipped on them and they're not really getting paid. And I think Travis Etienne was the one that came out and said that you have to transform your game, and you also have to be a quote-unquote a pass-catching running back in this league. And I think that when we talk about those type of running backs, Christian McCaffrey is the first one that comes to mind. I think Travis Etienne is starting to fit that mold as well for this Jaguars offense. Also, he has that rapport with Trevor Lawrence, right? So And if he's able to get one screen pass or a check down to Travis Etienne, he has that capability of breaking it out. And we're not asking him to get a lot of yards here. He can get it done to one catch like he has done in his career, at least going back to last season. Receiving the ball as well. So I'm going to go with Travis Etienne over 14.5 receiving yards as my best bet for NFL Week 1 here, Rod.
Don't have to sell me on ETN. I'm so big on ETN this season that I probably should not be. So I'm sorry, Travis, if you're going to have a bad season because I'm on you. But I really do. I love the upside of ETN. And on the NFL gambling podcast, Ryan, Justin, and I, we basically gush over the Jaguars. And I never thought I'd ever say that. So, Trevor's going to have to get ETN involved too in the passing game as well as the rushing game. So that's such a low number. That's one good screen pass away from cashing.
Yep, I agree. All right, that is going to do it for our NFL Week 1 player props for the Sunday schedule. Hopefully, it is going to be hopefully it's a better Sunday because the only direction for us is to go up after the catastrophe on Thursday Night Football. But Rod, anything else we want to mention before we get out of here?
No, again, it's nowhere to go but up. And for those of you who listen, who just want to be here to pick us all apart, that's fine. We'll cash some over the course of this next couple of weeks. So we're good to go, buddy. Don't sleep on us. We're going to get there.
Yeah. And again, we also give you the possibility if you want to fade us and make some money that way, if you think so, that's a possibility there as well. So we'll leave it to you guys, but hopefully we did find some winners here for NFL Week 1. We'll recap it when we do come back next week for our player props. Make sure to follow Rod on Twitter at RJ Villagomez. Make sure to check him out on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network for all the great work that he does with the F1 Gambling Podcast and, of course, the NASCAR Gambling Podcast. Has absolutely been crushing it. You follow me on Twitter at SportsNerd824. Make sure to subscribe to the NFL Gambling Podcast YouTube channel. You'll know when we go live every single day of the week. A lot of different shows that we do from all the hosts that we do have. And, of course, here on the Propcast, if you haven't left us a rating and review, please go ahead and do so. All right. Enjoy NFL Week 1. Bet responsibly because it is only Week 1. We have a very long way to go. Till then, good luck with your bets. Let's break these books off and let it ride.